Hey everyone, this is Sandip and welcome back to 100 Days of Coding JavaScript. This is day 2 of this video series, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about data types and variables. So let's jump directly into the video. Okay, so before I jump and talk about the data types and variables, I would like to talk about what I call the Super 6 tools for any beginner programmer. I call them Super 6 tools because they are really important, and if you master these 6 tools as a beginner, if you're beginning in the programming, I can tell you you can become a much better programmer. And a lot of beginners, they underestimate all of these basic things, but trust me, these are really important. If you spend a lot of your time into the foundation, if you understand these Super 6 tools, you can become a really better programmer. Okay, so what are these 6 tools, or what I call Super 6 tools? So first one is how to model your application state or data efficiently. And for that, we use something called data types and variables. And that's the agenda of today's video. I'm going to talk about it next. Second, making decisions using logic. So we use if-else conditions, we use comparison and logical operators for writing some of the logic, for making some of the decisions. The third one is building collection of data using arrays. Arrays is really important to build, lists or a collection of data. Object is key to JavaScript. Once you know object, once you master object, I think objects are like the most important thing you should learn in JavaScript. The fifth tool is iterating over collections using loops. Once you know arrays, then we will jump into loops and we will see how you can loop through array and how you can work on the array values. And the last one, the sixth one, is modifying the state or data and writing reusable tasks using functions. Functions are really important in JavaScript. Now, these Super 6 tools are not only related to JavaScript, these can be applied in any other programming language. So if you master all of these Super 6 tools, you can apply this knowledge to Python, to Java, and any other programming language, C, C++, whatever. Okay, so let's talk about the first tool. We are going to master the first tool today called data types and variables. In today's world, we are okay. So let's talk about our first tool, that is called data types. The truth is we are living in the world of data today, right? We are surrounded by a lot of data. So I'll give you the example, right? When you pick up your phone and when you tap on it, I'm taking the example of iPhone here. Maybe some of the guys might be having different phone. What do you see, right? On the top, you see the time, right? That's data. You see the date. That's data. You see the notification. All of these things, all of these three things are nothing but data. Let's take the another example. Say suppose you go on the amazon.in or amazon.com and you search for a product like iPhone. I'm taking the example of iPhone again. So what do you see, right? You see the image of an iPhone. You see the title or the name of that particular product. You see the reviews, you see the price, and you see some data and other things. All of these things are called data. Take one more example just for understanding things in detail. Say suppose you sign up for the Spotify. So when you sign up for Spotify, you get the form and you enter some of the details there, like your email address, confirmation of the email address, password, what should we call you, maybe the name, right? Then date of birth, then the gender, and then last is share my registration data with Spotify. This is something related to privacy. So this form, right? And all of the details you're filling into this form is also a data. So we need some way to construct this data, to name this data, to categorize this data into some category. And for that purpose, and we need to categorize or name this data in any language, right? Now we are talking about JavaScript, right? So in JavaScript, how you're going to categorize or how you're going to name this data or how you're going to define the type for all of this data, all right? For that purpose, we have something called primitive types in JavaScript. And there are several primitive types available in JavaScript. Now, don't worry about what is the meaning of primitive types. There are something called reference type also, right? So that is more of, separate discussion. I don't want to confuse you with that in this particular video. That we will discuss that in the separate video. Okay, so JavaScript has primitive types, and there are a number of primitive types we have like number, string, boolean, undefined, null, symbol, and big int. Now, these five, one, two, three, four, five top, right? These are the like mostly used. So like I'm coding in JavaScript from like more than 15 years now. These are the data types which I mostly use: number, string, boolean, undefined, and null. Symbol and big int are rarely used, or I don't know if I can remember, if I have used them in my entire career. They might be getting used, right? I'm not sure about it, and maybe I'll find out and I'll see the use cases for them and come back with another video. But these five are like most important for us to become a good JavaScript developer. Now we know the primitive types in JavaScript. Now it's time, to let's do an exercise. Let's do some hands-on. So what we are going to do? So we are going to assign a name and a data type to all the previous example screenshots, right? We talked about data types, right? We talked about all of this different data, right? We talked about this time, then the date, then the messages, then the name of the product, right? So now we are going to take all of these screenshots, right? So that's the exercise we are going to do, and we are going to name them. We're going to give it a name, and we are going to give them a data type. So data type is nothing but all these five categories, right? And for today, I think mostly we are going to use these three. So let's focus on these three only. So we are going to categorize. So what we are going to do, we'll go into our JavaScript code editor, right? And we will pick up this value. Okay, now we will categorize it. Okay, where does it fit? Is it a number? Is it a string, or is it a boolean? These are some of the questions we are going to ask to categorize our data types. So for that, I have already opened my Visual Studio Code, and inside my Visual Studio Code, I have created a folder called Datatypes and Vars or Variables. I have my index.html file, and inside that I have included the script file called index.js. Okay, and inside my index.js, I have nothing. So we're going to take the examples one by one. So let's refer the first screenshot. Okay, so this screenshot is for an iPhone, right? So let's write something like this: iPhone data. I'm writing. By the way, this is called comment in JavaScript. So when you use double slashes, or when you want to write a / multi-line comment, we generally use this kind of syntax. So this is, I'm just going to give you the example. This is multi-line, not multi-line comment. Okay, and let me copy this and I'll keep it below. And this is one line comment or single line comment. Anything you can call it. Okay, so these are different ways of defining comments in JavaScript. Okay, so focus is on name and data type. So I'm going to create the data types for my iPhone data. So I'll go back. Okay, I'll look into the first thing. What is this? This is time, right? So I'm going to write it down, 9:41. What do you think? What is it? It looks like a number. The 9 is a number, the colon and 41. Colon is not a number, but 9 is a number, 41 is a number. So what do you think? If I go back to my primitives, right? We have number, we have string, we have boolean. What it must be, right? Any guess? So take some time, pause and guess about it. For me, it's a string. So I'll go with string, right? And I'm going to put a comment, single line comment here. I'm going to name this. So I'm going to name this as time, and the data type will be string. So these are the two things we need to give it to this value. Okay, so this is a value and this is a string value, and the name of value which I am preferring is time. Let's go to the next one. This is, okay, I'm just going to write it first and later on we'll decide. So Wednesday, okay, auto something populating automatically. So Wednesday, comma, then I'm going to use the shortcut August and then 14. What do you think? We have the string, we have the text is nothing but a string, we have the August, we have the number 14. But when we have the combination of something like this, maybe I'm going to go with string again. So this is what? This is date and this is again a string. Next one. Okay, I have multiple things here. I have the name, I can see this name, so I'll pick up that name, Armando, something like that. And for me, it is a name, again, a string, because text is nothing but a string. So I'm going to call it a name, and this is again a string. I see the number, right? 3 messages, right? So that 3 is a number. So I'll go with a number, and maybe I'll call it message count. Okay, I'll call it a message count and I will give it a data type name of number. So I think we are done with our iPhone data. Let's quickly do the same exercise for this product also, right? The Apple product, and that will give you practice. You know, that's why I've taken all these examples, just to give you more practice. Okay, so I'm going to create data, data type for my product. So this is product data. I'm going to call it product data in the comments. Let's pick up the first one. This is an image, right? So the image generally has something called a URL. So something like this. And this image is loading from the server. Don't get into the details of servers and all those things. If you don't understand what is server, that's not what we are. We are here to learn. We are here to learn JavaScript. Just understand that URL is nothing but it's going to be something like this. So it will be like amazon.com slash, then it's a photo of iPhone, right? So I'm going to name it iphone.jpg, something like that. Okay, now this is a URL, right? And this looks like a string to me. So I'll go with, let's go with HTTPS string. And again, I'm going to put a comment. This is a URL. I'll say product image URL, and this is a string. Okay, I need to put some spacing here. Maybe I'll just close it down. Okay, next is I'll go with this. This is a title, right? Product title. Apple iPhone 14 Pro Max. Apple iPhone 14 Pro Max. What do you think? What is this? This is again a string, right? Text is nothing but a string. So I'll name it product name, right? This is the name of the product, and this is again string. So we are getting a lot of string data. So you're going to encounter a lot of strings and numbers, and also booleans also. The next one is number. I mean, it's really simple. That's why, you know, I'm telling you number 149,900. So 149,900. Obviously, it's a number. So I'm going to call it a, okay, first of all, we're going to say price. This is the price of the product, or I would say product price, and this is a number. We haven't encountered any booleans yet, but I have one example for boolean also. Let's move on to the next screenshot and let's quickly do it. The first one is email, right? So first of all, I'll call it Spotify form data. Okay, and the first one is email. Obviously, email is going to be something like this. You're going to enter something like this, Sandip@gmail.com, right? This is the email maybe you're going to put, right? So I'm going to call it email, and this is obviously string. Next one is password. So password, maybe I'm going to give a password of secret, right? So this is password, and this is again string. So a lot of strings are coming, right? The last one is interesting, right? Share my registration data with Spotify content provider for making marketing purposes. So this is more of, you know, kind of a question. they're asking, can we share your data for marketing purposes? So you can answer this question in two different values, right? Either yes or no. So when you have something like yes or no, right, this is called a Boolean data. This can be categorized as a Boolean data. So I'm not going to say yes or no. I'm going to say true or a false. So Boolean has only two values, that is either a true value or a false value. So I'm going to say yes to it, right? So I'm going to write true here. I'm going to remove this. So this is more of, I'm going to call it allow share my data, right? And this is going to be a Boolean. So we have encountered the Boolean for the first time, right? So we have taken different screenshots, right? Different data here. And what we did, right? We have taken the data individually. And if you see here, see, you have created so much of data and you have named your data, you have categorized your data. This is a really interesting exercise, right? We did for three different things: iPhone data, product data, and the Spotify form data. And you know, like how to categorize your data. Now you know how to categorize your data, right? The next thing is, if you look at here, right, all of our data is hanging around, right? I mean, there is no meaning of having data in such a way. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to properly define all of this data in the JavaScript format. So if you want to take a quick pause, just take a quick pause here, come back, and we are going to talk about something called variables in the next part of the video. Let's talk about variables now. So variables are like a labeled container to store values in JavaScript. So if you see here, like it's like a container which has some name, like the age. Age can have a value, right? Age can be 20, 30. So variables are labeled container to store values in JavaScript. So if I come back to my code, right, these are values, right? This is a time value, this is a date value, this is a name value. All of these values are hanging around here and they don't have any meaning. They don't have any name. So we are going to put all of these values, right, into some container and we're going to name that container. So we can name a container and store some value into it, right? And later on, the values can be accessed or modified. So obviously we are going to first of all define a variable. We're going to put some values into it and later on we can read those values, or if we want to modify those values, we can do that too. So this is a syntax which we use to define a variable. So we use some keyword, like there are different keyword, right? We have a let, we have const, we have var, and I don't want to get into the differences between let, const, and var in this video because this is more about defining the data type, creating the variables, and I'm going to keep that for a separate video. Then you're going to have some name because you want to name your variable, you want to name your container, right? Like how we name our friends, like how we name our things in our house, right? Like how we name different products. Similarly, you name a variable also. Then the assignment operator to assign some value to it, and that value is like the last thing, some value which can be a number, string, or a boolean. So let's use this syntax, right, to define some of the variables, and let's see how we can access them and how we can modify them. So if you see in our code, right, all of these values are hanging around. So I'm going to put some comments here and I'm going to pick up these values and I'm going to convert them into variable, right? So let's pick this value only. So I'm going to pick this value and I'm going to say let. Then I'm going to name this value, and we have already named this value, right? This is time. So I'm going to say time, then the assignment operator, and then paste the value. Now this is the right way of defining variable in JavaScript. Define a variable, right? So I'm doing two different operations here. I'm naming the variable and I'm assigning a value. You could do something like this also, let time, then a semicolon, and later on you can say something like this. This is another way of defining a variable. I need to comment it. So those lines are gone, right? That was showing some kind of error. So first you can define a variable and later on you can assign a new value to it. That's what I was trying to say in this presentation, right? The value can be later accessed or modified. So it's like, accessing the value time and modifying its value. I'll give you the one more example. Let's go with, I'm going to comment this, okay? This is first we are defining a variable, but I'm going to define a variable and assign a value directly. So I'm doing two different steps at one time, right? So this is more of defining a variable. Now, how you can access that variable and modify it, right? So say, suppose I want to access this variable. So I can say console.log and I'll say time, print time. Now, if I save and if I run my, is there option of open in live server? No, not here. I'm going to run it in my browser. And we won't be able to see anything here, but we will be able to see the output in the console. So I am going to open the console, maybe here, not here. Okay, let me scroll this. You see that this value is coming here. I'm going to refresh. And maybe if I can put my browser, just I can modify this value also. So to modify this value, I'm going to access it time is equals to, maybe I'm going to change that time to 12:00 something like this, semicolon. Yes. So now if I save and again, if I'm going to print that time, right? You see that the time value has changed. So initially the value was 9:41. Now the value is 12. So variables are labeled container to store value in JavaScript. We can name a container and store some value into it, and the value can be later accessed and modified. Let's take another example, maybe like initially maybe the iPhone price, or let's go with some other. Okay, let's go with this. Let's define so we are going to define all the variables basically. Let's do that. So I'm going to define different variables so that you'll get more practice. So maybe I want to expand this because we are not going to print any value now, right? So let's take all of our example one by one and we are going to do that. So I'll go with this one, date, right? So date is simple, right? It's similar to time. So I'm going to skip that. I'm going to skip the name also, like we have already defined a variable. Let's take the example of this product image, right? How you're going to define this product image, because it got some multiple name, product image URL, right? Multiple text. How to define such variable, right? So to define such variable, we use something called a camel case syntax. I'm going to say product image URL. So what we do basically, we start with a small letter. The first word is like product. Then the next letter we capitalize the first letter, and for the next word also we capitalize the first letter. So this is called the camel case syntax. Camel case, or we can call it a snake case syntax to define our variable. And I'm going to take that value from here, product image URL. I'll put that value inside. Simple, right? Let's take one more example. Maybe let's take the example of the product name, right? So how we are going to define this variable? So I'm going to say let. So this is again a multi-word variable, right? So we're going to say product name equals to, I need to copy and paste that value. So I'm just going to copy it from here and paste it here. Product name. Let's talk about the number also, right? Maybe we'll take the number. So this message count variable, right? Let message count is equals to 3. So in JavaScript, you don't write something like this, like how we write in other languages, like maybe Java or some other language, right? Like in Java, I think we write something like this, maybe integer, something like this. So the value itself define, this value is a number, right? So the data type of message count is going to become a number. If the value is string, the data type of product name is going to become a string. Similarly, let's take another example. Let's take this Boolean example, right? So I'm going to take this, allow share my, and I have already typed it in camel case. Wow. So let allow share my data, and I'm going to say either true or I can say false. Let's keep it private. I don't want to allow to share my data to someone. So allow share my data equals to false. This is how you define a Boolean variable, I would say. So pretty good examples, I would say. Number of examples we tried, right, to create a variable. We talked about the data type, right? and we have created all those variables. We have put some values into it. One more thing, the last thing which I want to talk about in this video is called some of the naming rules for our variables, and that's what I'm going to talk in the next part of the video. So if you want to have a quick pause, take a quick pause, come back, and we'll talk about the last topic for this video. Okay. So there are some rules, the general rules which you need to follow while constructing the names of your variables, right? And these are some of the rules, and don't worry, you don't need to remember all these rules. We can Google it anytime. Whenever you are creating the variable, just Google it and read it and follow the rules. That's it. So let's start. Like, names can contain letters, digits, underscores, and dollar sign. So when you're naming your variable, I go back to my code, right? So your variable can have a string, your variable can have a number, your variable can have a dollar sign, and your variable can have an underscore. So all of this possible values, but you can't put percentage sign, something like this, or maybe the ampersand sign. So you're allowed to put only dollar and underscore as a special character. You can have a text, you can have a number also. So it can be a combination of text, number, underscore, and dollar. Cool. The next one, name must begin with a letter. Now this is important. You cannot start your variable name with a number. So I can't say one product image URL or a two product image URL or 200 product image URL. It has to start with a text value, right? I mean, begin with a letter. But there is a star to it, right? A name can also begin with dollar and underscore. So you cannot start with the number, but you can start with a dollar, or you can start with underscore. So you can have dollar underscore in between also, right? Something like this. You can have it at end also, something like this. But you can have a number at the end also, but you cannot have a number at the start. But you can have the dollar and you can have the underscore. Next one. Names are case sensitive. This is really, really important. The age and capital age are different variable. Let's create one variable, right? Age, right, is equals to 20. And then again, I'm going to create another variable called age is equals to 50. Now, these two are different variables in JavaScript. This is really important. These two are, and this can be a very good interview question also for a beginner. If you're a fresher applying for a JavaScript job, right? Let age is equals to 20, let capital AGE equals to 50 are two different variables. So I'm going to put some comment here, two different variables. Got it? This is really, really important. The last one, reserved words like JavaScript keyword cannot be used as name. Now, what is a keyword, right? I talked about it here, right? Keyword, this let is a keyword. So you cannot name your variable with a JavaScript keyword. So there are a lot of keywords in JavaScript we will learn as we go along in this course, right? As we follow this course. So I'll give you the example, like this let, right? This let is a keyword. So you cannot name your variable as let is equals to 300. You can't do that. See, we are getting the error. Let is not allowed to be used as a name in let or const. And you don't need to remember these rules. What is the reason? Because your code editor, your Visual Studio is your friend, and it's telling you that, boss, this variable name is not correct. Please change it. So you can change it to let1 and it's going to work. Similarly, like I was using a number here, right? And it has told me, right, an identifier or a keyword cannot immediately follow a numeric letter. So that's why you don't need to remember all of these rules. Whenever you're going to define the variables, Visual Studio Code is going to come at your rescue. It is going to help you. So, but I kept it here, just for the sake of reference, so that if you want, you can refer all of these rules and you shouldn't do any mistake. Cool. Long video. I understand we talked about a lot of things. We talked about data. We are surrounded by data. We talked about data types, right? Then we talked about different primitive types in JavaScript like number, string, boolean. We haven't talked about undefined and null. Separate video will be coming for that. Symbol, pegint also probably I'll try to cover. Then we did exercise, right? We went through all of these screenshots. We have defined the data. We have created the data. And then later on, and we categorized it, right, into string, number, or boolean. And later on, we have seen like how to define a variable, how to give it a name, and how to assign a value to it. And also we have seen, right, how to access our variable and how to modify its value also. So that's it for this video. I know this is a long video, but I wanted to cover one topic in one video in depth. That's the intention I have in creating all of these videos for you. So with that, I'm going to take a pause, or I'm going to say goodbye to you. And I'm going to see you in the next video. Until then, you take care. Goodbye. If you have any questions, doubt, I see a lot of people commenting on the videos. I really love that. I'm going to answer. I'll try to answer all those questions, whatever you're putting. So if you have any question, post in the comments and I'll try to respond to them as soon as possible. Goodbye. Take care. And I'm going to see you in the next video.